In a sense, it kind of always has been, but it's been more of an ethical issue or maybe a moral compass type debate. Got your plant-based and is it right or is it wrong, like a right or wrong type conversation. Media in general is somebody parroting somebody else's take. So somebody hears RFK Jr. talk about something, somebody hears him talk about it, and then they're reporting on what he said. It's not reporting on what the research said. And then it just becomes a game of telephone. At 14, I was diagnosed with diabetes, finished 16 full years of diabetes since my diagnosis. So now it's been a majority of my life that I've been type 1 diabetic. I think if you were to ask yourself a very simple question, and that simple question is there anything easier I can do? And if the answer is yes, then you've got a lot of improvement to do. And I'll use the example, I'll be very blunt with it, but you forget that they went from fat to fit and how long it took, and you just want to go from fat to fit tomorrow. You forget how long it took you to get to fat. I've met lots of ranchers on the beef side who, even they don't like carnivore diets. Yeah. For what it's worth. They think it's like, oh my God, it's crazy. Mainly because they can't even afford to eat their own beef. So it is a little bit tone deaf for people to hyperfixate on, steaks or the steak bros, as they call it, or even, people that are anti-seed oil. It's tone deaf.
We have very different viewpoints on many things.
But a lot of these issues are American issues. They're not Republican or Democrat issues.
Welcome back to Elevated Thoughts, the podcast working to restore productive discourse between left and right. I'm your right-wing host, Cooper Simmons, joined as always by my lefty co-host, Mike Marrow. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most overcomplicated and politicized topics in America, your health. Somewhere along the way, eating real food and taking care of your body became a partisan issue. And so we're bringing on Edin Sehovic, also known on Instagram as Evidence Nutrition, to help us figure out what the hell is going on. Edin's a performance nutritionist and social media creator who drops some of the sharpest evidence-based insights you'll find anywhere online. Whether you're wondering which seed oils might burn holes in your intestines, or which shots would give your unborn baby laryngitis, or was it leprosy? I can't remember, but my 22-month-old isn't having sex. So all jokes aside, Edin makes complex science easy to understand, and when his shirt's off, let's be honest, easy to watch too. So together, we're going to ask, what does make America healthy again really mean? And how do we separate politicized ideology from just having common sense? Edin, we're stoked to have you here, man. How are you doing?
Thank you guys so much for having me. Also, that intro was unreal. That's got to be top 3 intros I've ever received.
We're glad to have that for you.
I'll take it.
Well, I mean every word of it, dude. We've been following you for a little while now and are very grateful that you've chosen to join us here. And you know what I'd like to start with, before we even get into who you are, and maybe you can lead into that, but how did we get to a point in modern day society where eating eggs and red meat is making a political statement?
Oh, I mean, look, it's in a sense, it kind of always has been, kind of depending on, but it's been more of an ethical issue or maybe a moral compass type debate.
Back to PETA, yes.
Where you've got your plant-based and is it right or is it wrong, like a right or wrong type conversation. Yeah, and then obviously then you have some health research that comes out with regards to maybe saturated fats or with regards to cholesterol perhaps, and then people misrepresent that because the reality of social media or media in general is somebody parroting somebody else's take. So somebody hears RFK Jr. talk about something. I'm just going to name drop here, but this is a hypothetical, okay? Somebody hears him talk about it, and then they're reporting on what he said. It's not reporting on what the research said. And then it just becomes a game of telephone. And so, sure, it started as, hey, there's this research on cholesterol, and we actually used eggs or saturated fat and cholesterol, and we used eggs in the study. And then if you actually read to the end of the study, whether or not it was whether or not it moved the needle massively is up for debate, or even in the research, they might not make any definitive statements, but because it becomes a game of telephone by the third person repeating on the last person, it ends up being a little bit more of a politicized thing. And people in nature are quite divisive. They like to contradict one another and sound better or cooler than the last person. It's like food is, I think, the gateway drug for keeping up with the Joneses. It's very easy to class size, I guess, food, because it's very cheap. The entry level is, you don't have to spend a lot of money to, elevate yourself above the last person. And it's quite arbitrary as well. So I don't know when it started really, but it's been my whole life for sure. So
yeah.
So I think social media has definitely played a large role into it. We don't have to get too deep into the ethics around social media, but I'm sure you remember a time when we were all in middle school, first period, you heard about these two guys that were going to fight. And by third period, the entire school knew about this fight that was going to happen before the end of the day. Right. So
yeah.
it's not new that that kind of stuff spreads like wildfire, but it feels like, and you're the larger content creator here, I'm sure you feel the pressure of it sometimes, the audience capture, or you make a lot of reaction videos to these folks that just, they feel the need that the only way to kind of get heard, right? You're a small fish in this giant ocean, is I have to say the most ridiculous, over the top, hyperbolic thing. And it usually is someone's statement about a statement about a statement about a study, right? So do you feel those pressures and the role of social media and all of that?
Me personally, I don't feel the need to say that, because something I've never talked about on a podcast before, or in general out loud, not in person. Like in person, I feel like I talk about it at length, but I don't make social media content for attention, which is, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like me, but I truly, obviously you want your posts to do well and you want to make a difference. And in order to make a difference, more people have to see it. But I don't mind if I make a post that's like 10,000 views or 100,000 views or 1 million views, or I've had posts as high as, I think, 35, 40 million views, or if it's 100, right? Like that's why a perfect example, I still post on my TikTok. Ever since they put that, they put like a new update to their algorithm for anytime you mention low fat or weight loss or eating disorder or disordered eating, the moment you mention those words, it just plummets your views. So ever since they put that through, that's most of my content, right? So I struggle to get 1,000 views on TikTok, but I still put it up because you never know who it's going to impact at less than 1,000 views. Like, I've had the pleasure the other day at a conference to have a lineup of folks at the conference, and seeing, what 50 people looks like. You're like, whoa, that's an overwhelming amount of people. So I'm reminded constantly that the views I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because of course it kind of does. It's the whole nature of the business. But I really just want to make that impact on, which a lot of people do this, but I want to make that impact on past me, or like 13, 14-year-old me. Actually, to be accurate, about 16-year-old me. So that's who I think of when I make the videos: 16-year-old me, or the mom of 16-year-old me.
So walk us through that, Edin. So we didn't get into your background a little bit, but what happened at 16? Were you going through a transformation? You lose weight? Did you get bullied?
So, yeah, I mean, so at 14, I was diagnosed with diabetes. So just over last week, it would have been my diaversary, they call it. Finished 16 full years of diabetes since my diagnosis. So now it's been a majority of my life that I've been type 1 diabetic. And, you go through, definitely transformation is one way to describe it, because you go from being 130 pounds or soaking wet to dropping all of a sudden over a summer, you drop down to 85, more or less.
Yeah, because you can't eat.
And so obviously some turmoil, family turmoil comes of that. And you get tested by your parents. You want to be the strong kid, but you're also, again, losing weight like crazy. You want to pretend like everything's all good. And then eventually parents get involved. Now I empathize with my parents, but in the moment you're just thinking, oh man, my parents want just give me a break, dude. Let me live my life.
Right.
So yeah. And then, at about 16 is when, everyone else is bigger. Everyone else is, maybe if they're on the football team or whatever. And that was, in my school, there was big football and lots of that, but I'm playing tennis, so I don't know if I can swear here.
Go for it.
But I was going to say, I'm known as the guy that plays the bitch sport. So
Right.
I'm obviously not very large in size. Probably at that point when I was 16, so 2 years later, I might have been 145, 150, at about 5'9", 5'10". So in no way am I an intimidating fella. And, you want to impress the girls, but you also want to be good at the sport you're doing. And then you also are dealing with this autoimmune condition that's impacting you on a daily basis. And you want it to end one day. You want to, hell, you don't even want it to end. You just want to get one day off, just one.
Sure.
And it never happens. And so, yeah, I got bullied a ton. Thankfully, I have an older brother, though. That helped in a lot of cases. Not in all. Sometimes he was the bully, but that's siblings, I guess. He was. I wouldn't say he was a formative bully, though. So, but for sure, you deal with that. And it was at about 16 that I kind of decided two things. I wanted to start working out. And I had probably dabbled with my brother when I was before 16, maybe once or twice, but then I wanted to get a little bit more into it. And then, and I'm playing competitive tennis. Like I'm playing 4 or 5 hours a day. So I was very much athletic, I guess, growing up. But at that time, you start to realize how nutrition impacts things. And that's where my curiosity with nutrition started. And I've always been a healthy skeptic.
Yeah. It's interesting to go back, Mike, if I just want to share a little personal anecdote to put that size into perspective and age and all that, because it's interesting. I've never been good at that. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1" and I weigh like 240 right now, similar to what you are, but I'm a different composition, obviously. And back when I was like, 13, I was in 8th grade, not yet in 9th grade high school football. I was still playing Pop Warner. And I remember that I weighed 211 pounds because I had to lose 12 pounds to get to 199 to be allowed to play with 8th graders. So I was the opposite side of that spectrum. I was always the biggest guy. But what happened was it created this kind of diet necessity for me at that age, which was, maybe good, but it was awkward. It was weird. I was running and eating salads every day as an 8th grader. It was definitely weird. And now that I think about this, my whole life trajectory has kind of been this: I'm big, I eat, I can go eat. And then, oh, wait, the next 60 days, I have to stress to lose 12 pounds. And that's kind of like been what it is. And so I think what I'm getting at with all of this is when you were at that age, you kind of had the circumstance that created discipline in you. It created this personal agency. And similar to me in that way is I had to do a goal to do what I wanted. And what I find now, and we talk about tribalism between parties, we talk about, hey, if you're eating beef tallow French fries, you're probably a right winger. And if you're eating matcha lattes and sunflower chips, then you're probably a leftist. So what I want to get at is, where does the personal responsibility come into this, right? It sounds really easy. My mom said to me the other day, hey, I think you should try fasting for 36 hours. That could make all of the problems you have go away with your sleep and, the stress at work. I go, Mom, I should probably stop scrolling social media, online gambling, and eating Oreos every night too. That would be great. But all of these things are environmental. So in this world of excess and lust and these terrible dopaminergic attacks, where does personal responsibility fall into all of that?
That's loaded, but great question. Hopefully I can answer it in a relatively concise way. In my opinion, of course, this is my opinion, but I think personal agency, man, that's such a good way of putting it. I think if you were to ask yourself a very simple question, and that simple question is there anything easier I can do? And if the answer is yes, then you've got a lot of improvement to do. So what I mean by that is, let's take your example of the 36-hour fast. So your mom tells you got to fast for 36 hours, it'll improve your life. And if you ask yourself, is there anything easier I can do? And you just immediately said, I could scroll less, I could, then you listed off 3, 4, 5 things. Okay, yeah, then personal agency is still something that you have an option for. But for example, if I'm going to just create a hypothetical here. If you're someone who lives in a very dangerous area, these exist in the US, these exist in Canada, these exist wherever in the world that you might be listening to this. So you live in a dangerous area and you think, man, I really want to start running, but I can't just leave from my house. Well, then you have to ask yourself, do I have a car? Is it realistic to get to it? Is there a park nearby, a track nearby? Do I have, and you start asking yourself these questions. And your goal is to become a better runner specifically, not just fat loss or weight loss or whatever. If your goal is that, then you have to ask yourself, is there anything easier I can do? And if the answer is no, like there's no easier way, or, in the case of nutrition, if the answer is yes, I can just maybe add some fruits, I don't know, to reduce the calories or to add some carbs or whatever, sure, that's great. But if the answer is no, then if the answer is no, or you only have like one or two things you can change, then it's a little less about your personal agency and more about your circumstance, as you suggested. So again, you can't really you're not going to all of a sudden, the reality that most people don't want to admit, and I face this a lot because I'm a dreamer. I'm a big dreamer. I've never wanted to be limited by things, but then life humbles the fuck out of you.
Yes, it does.
You realize you cannot wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden make $100,000 more dollars. So you have to realistically, I know, crazy. You see these influencers
lately.
Yeah, right. So you see these influencers perhaps that are like spending like crazy, and that doesn't mean they have like crazy. That could be, you see all these guys on like Rainbet or Stake and whatever else those companies are that are actually funding them to, I'm not going to name any names here because it's not about that, but now they're actually gambling with other people's money. So you're sitting here thinking, man, this guy gambles $100K a day or $5K a day. This is getting crazy. I want to do that. I don't, for the record, but you start to see these things and you're like, man, how do they do that? Like that, you start to think that it's possible. And while it's good, I think you should dream big, maybe not in the gambling sphere, but dream big and do whatever. That's great. But you also have to be simultaneously a little bit self-aware in a sense that, okay, I'm a janitor. Tomorrow, I'm not going to wake up with an extra $100,000 a year. What can I do? What can I do within my reach? Like, what can I do today? What can I do tomorrow? What can I do long term? So it is about that, in a way, it's still about setting short term and long term goals. But I think it starts with a simple question of like, is there anything easier or any bigger lever that I can flick to make a bigger impact? So, I always use this with weight loss is like, if you ask yourself, everything I'm doing is failing. And then somebody just asks like, okay, well, do you eat 30 grams of fiber a day? Oh, no, I don't even get 10. You're like, oh, maybe start there. And then the question, and then the question progresses to, well, how do I get fiber? And then you figure out all the things that have fiber, pretty much all plants, and 5 different fiber groups. Then you think from there, okay, well, how many of these am I getting? Okay, well, it's like 1 or 2 per day, maybe. Okay, well, let's see if I can get 2 or 3 or 4. And then you progress from there, and you really, to your original point where you kind of added some context there, you said that you get, this dopaminergic world. And I also think people are kind of obsessed with these massive transformations because it's sensationalized, regardless of what field, right? If it is super skinny to super strong, or super, overweight, morbidly obese to now like a regular weight, or sorry, regular, but more normalized weight for their height. Regardless of what it is, you see point A to point B. You don't see how long it took in between. You don't see anything like that. So you kind of forget, and I'll use the example, I'll be very blunt with it, but you forget that they went from fat to fit and how long it took, and you just want to go from fat to fit tomorrow. You forget how long it took you to get to fat.
It's like winning a lotto ticket.
It took you a hell of a long time to get to fat, and now all of a sudden you want to do it in 2 days to reverse it.
It's actually funny. I didn't want to talk about gambling, but that's like the perfect metaphor. It's like you want this diet solution, an exercise solution that's basically a slot machine. You want to put in $1 and walk away with 100,000, like you said, and it's just not the way that things work in any context.
Yeah.
So I think
I use that example for a reason, but yeah. Sorry about that, Michael.
No, by all means. And it's definitely touching on what we're going on here. When someone like yourself, or just generally people who are in performance sports, or just some sort of performance, or you have an autoimmune disorder like diabetes, you don't have the luxury of getting lucky. If I just do this little diet hack, and even if it doesn't have a net positive, as long as it doesn't have a net negative, it might just seem like it's working, right? It's one of those false positives in your routines and things like that. But when most folks who don't have that luxury or are not just generally very healthy people, where that they can take these little wives' tales or myths and play off them, and then they're just putting in the work in the gym anyway, so it seems like it's working. What are some of those myths out there that are counterproductive? So some of the things maybe I see you talk about, and I'll let you touch on it more, is people kind of get lost on majoring in the minors. If I just hyper focus on this one little thing, but I'm not doing, like, for instance, not eating fiber, right? If I'm not getting enough fiber, I'm not eating enough vegetables a day, I'm already kind of shooting myself in the foot. What do you think is the most counterproductive one out there?
Oh, to hone in on, you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, really, I think anything where you're hyperfixating on specific ingredients.
Okay.
There is nothing that is allowed by the FDA or USDA that you should be hyperfixating on as being like, oh my God, it's going to ruin you. And if there is, even if that ingredient does exist, what is the likelihood that you're consuming enough of it for it to actually impact your life as much as you think it is?
Sure.
So even if that ingredient is saturated fat, like our boy just recently came out and said, cool, that's awesome, love that for you, like, love that you think saturated fat increase will benefit, but what is the amount that you feel that you would need to consume? We're always speaking in vague numbers, vague terms.
I don't think there's numbers. Yeah,
there isn't numbers. Forgive me. There's never numbers. It's just kind of like
right.
vague, obtuse sentences that don't really even sound like they go together. It sounds like it. Sometimes I do feel in that case specifically, like, whatever side you lean on politically, by the way, and I want to make it abundantly clear that 99% of the time when I make my videos, I get accused of being a political identity that I don't agree with.
It's total politics of everything, politicization of everything, unfortunately.
And I will say it happens a lot more in the US than in Canada. I am a Canadian, but most of my audience is American, and a lot of the things that I do make content on are uniquely American problems.
Right.
So I'll say that. I think that's the nicest way I can say it.
We might not even know what you're talking about, to be honest. We don't even. But
there's many things that I talk about that are uniquely American, but they get we are. I will say one thing before I move on from it. We are the same shit, different pile. As Canadians, we are the same shit, different pile. We just say a boot weird. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah. So. And we say a and sorry and stuff like that, but otherwise same shit. So. So it does, the other day, 2 days ago, had someone talking to me about seed oils, and you're like, okay, which one? You ask a simple question like, which one? So that's, again, talking about specific ingredients, but then people don't even take the time. It's like the laziest approach. I'm like, okay, which seed oil are you upset with? Well, all of them, and canola oil and whatever. And I go, can you name another one? Like just canola oil? Oh, well, and then it gets to be like, oh, you're trying to be a smart ass. No. They're just very different. Their fatty acid profiles are completely different one to the next. So it's very important that we're specific. If we're going to argue semantics, then at least let's be specific. So, I think in general, getting hyper specific is just a lost cause.
So am I understanding you that replacing beef tallow in our Oreos is not going to make us healthier as a nation?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
I mean...
Just so I have it clear.
Yeah. It's no, the Oreos don't become healthy all of a sudden. So, or neither does the Coca-Cola when you replace it with real cane sugar instead of, all of these years of infrastructure put into place supporting American farmers with subsidies that they, by the way, can barely survive on.
Sure.
And now you are like, it is such a, it makes me so angry because I work in agriculture a fair amount. Like, I try to connect with these industries. And so for me, I've met lots of ranchers on the beef side who even they don't like carnivore diets for what it's worth. They think it's like, oh my God, it's crazy. Mainly because we'll get into that maybe perhaps later, but mainly because they can't even afford to eat their own beef.
Yeah.
So across the board, and that is something that is every rancher that is, if you have a single rancher that is listening to this, they will agree with me that they cannot afford to eat their own steaks. So it is a little bit tone deaf for people to hyperfixate on, steaks, or the steak bros, as they call it, or even, people that are anti-seed oil. It's tone deaf. It's tone deaf, and or the cane sugar crowd, because now the people that are growing corn, they're sitting there like they are a cornerstone of the American economy and what feeds the U.S. and more, because it's exported as well outside of the U.S. And now all of a sudden, people want to take away their subsidies that they quite literally survive off of. And it's already tough to get people to farm, because why would you, when you can pick up a phone like me and start recording videos and maybe live a better life and not physically have to get calloused hands? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a really interesting multifactorial world. And me trying to navigate it. Obviously, one video will piss off one person, then piss off another person on the next video. But it's trying to help people understand that you and I can disagree on many things, but we can agree on something, and it's about, I think, and I know it sounds unbelievable with the videos that I make, but I think it's really important to first try to find the common ground. And I try to do that in a lot of my videos. I try to find the common ground that I have with that person. And then
All
from
right,
there,
so I'm going to challenge
talk
you.
about the argument. Okay.
Go into seed oils a little bit, because I have a coworker, shout out Christy, love you, but she's telling me all the time how bad seed oils is as she's watching me drink a Coke Zero on my desk, and I get that. So what is the argument? What is the argument against the seed oils? Is it that it's a highly processed food, it causes inflammation? Yeah. That's it? Is that it?
And in the process of how they extract, or because typically seed oils are the use case for them is for them to be not very flavorful. So they'll typically use a hexane, and I might get this slightly off, so take it with a grain of salt. But effectively, they use a chemical, a hexane, to maybe to remove the the scent, right? To make it a neutral oil that has no color, no scent, right? So that you can use it in a frying setting and it doesn't really impact the flavor or the profile of whatever you're cooking. Because that's the goal of most seed oils. They are, your sunflower oils, your canola oils, your vegetable oil, those types of things. But the reality of them is, and if we look at outcome data or human outcome data, even if you look at animal outcome data, but if you look at outcome data in general, meaning you provide the crowd X subject, I'm just trying to present what an outcome data means. So when you give people a certain product, in this case seed oils, what is the outcome from that process? How does that impact their health if you gave it to them versus if you didn't? We have a lot of randomized control trials. We have a lot of cohort studies. We have a lot of human outcome data to support that at minimum, seed oils are, when all calories are equated and when protein is equated, when our diets are equated, and the only factor, the only variable that we switch out is the type of oil, we have reason to believe that it is at minimum net neutral, or to the other end, potentially beneficial in improved heart health, improved cardiovascular health, which is heart health, by the way, for those listening, and improved blood markers, and also improved inflammation. So the things that people the buzzwords that they get stuck on is oh, I'm going to get more inflamed. Well, that's a game of telephone. Someone just said it at one point. Oh, I'm going to have inflammation.
Right.
Couldn't tell
it's
you where it
having
came
toxins, you're detoxifying. Yeah, it's just
and which, by the way, your kidneys and livers do a great job of that. Otherwise, you would literally die if you had toxins on board all the time. You would quite literally pass away. So, I do have a kind of a hot take I'll share with you guys. Please. I think that level of, I appreciate skepticism, but I think the alarmist skepticism that is a uniquely American problem. Because I don't think I've ever seen it in Canada, at least not in person. And if it exists, I mean, there's a couple guys that make stupid content in Canada too, but they're very few and far between. But I think that crowd that tends to lean that way has a distrust in science typically, has a distrust in industry typically, and probably should visit their doctor more often. And, I would love to, and most of them I will ask them, hey, when was the last time you saw your doctor? And it's like, oh, that fucking guy?
Yeah.
Or they don't even have one, right?
Well,
Right.
the Hardee's and the Carl's Jr. has beef tallow now, so that's health food, I think.
Yeah.
Just like the glyphosate pancakes we eat in the garden.
Yeah, I mean, that's great and all, but you guys already are leading the witness on that one. But yeah, I think it's, if we're trying to make that healthy, we have a problem. It goes back to what you literally started the podcast with. Grab some fruit, eggs, beef, whatever it is, tofu. People will complicate that with, oh my God, soy is going to kill you. Just more plants. Eat more plants and pair that with, if you like beef, chicken, eggs, whatever, pair that with a lot more plants and you're going to be good. And that's why I always like to say on my page and in the intro, you kind of hinted at it, like I really try to simplify things. I really try to live by the motto, keep it simple, stupid. It's more than just a fun acronym. I appreciate that acronym. I've been living by it since I was like 15 and really trying to push that, but it really does change a lot of things.
So I want to dig down into that a little bit more. So obviously we recommend people to go to your channel and we're going to, reference all different clips and stuff like that. You'll see them here. But what are some targets that people could start working on? Like we were talked about before, everyone has different circumstances, but there are things that they can shoot for. Maybe fiber is one of them, maybe a certain number of grams of protein, but not obsess over, just what's some basic, keeping it simple, stupid kind of advice that people can shoot for in, improving their diet? What are things that they can do?
Can I stick with like overall health or
exactly?
Or does it have to be diet specific?
Look at that.
It could just
even simplified it further already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just overall health, what could people start doing of the things that they can control in their life?
So we're going to take the caveat that most Americans don't visit their doctor on an annual basis because, again, it can be expensive, right? Could be a barrier of entry, and that's something I think is really important to have context over. So
I didn't even know that.
Well, feel free to ask your friends. When was the last time, right? Like it might be anecdote, but feel free to prove me wrong.
Can I tell you? I didn't even think about that. I'm a victim of that. I haven't been to the doctor in probably 2.5 years.
Yeah. So, and meanwhile, I visit my doctor at some form of doctor within 3 months, every 3 months.
Shit. Yeah.
So that's where diabetes helps. Okay.
Fair enough.
I'm forced. I saw my endocrinologist today, actually.
There you go.
So shout out Dr. Gom. But yeah, so some things that you could change is, for example, aiming for 40 to 50 different fruits and vegetables in a week. Don't overthink the portion size. Just count them. Count them every day. And they could be the same, but we want to say, for example, I'm going to eat a handful of grape tomatoes or whatever they're called, cherry tomatoes. I guess those are two different things, but handful of them, right. A couple of cucumbers. It doesn't matter what the portion size is. If you grabbed 2 of those different things, even if it's one of them, okay, that's 1, 2, awesome. Try to hit 50 in a week. That's less than 5 a day. Right? 7 days a week.
I don't even
that's
think I could name
50
50 vegetables, Ed, and I'm actually not being
fruits, vegetables, plants, just plants. So keep it simple for yourself, because then people will be like, oh, well, what about tomatoes? Or what about potatoes? Or what about sweet potatoes? They all count.
Yeah.
What about tofu? It counts. What about beans? It counts. Does it grow in the ground? It counts. Keep it really simple. And hitting 50 of them, the likelihood of, and even nuts, seeds, right? Those all count towards that as well.
Plants, yep.
Plants, just more of them. Still eat everything else the exact same that you like. This way, we're not changing your diet from anything to do anything radical. But just in doing that, you're guaranteed going to be hitting over 20 grams of fiber a day. I can almost guarantee it. Then you can start looking for things that are higher in fiber. So you like eating wraps, you like tortillas, switching to those, the keto ones or the higher fiber, however they're marketed, depends on the brand, but those typically have higher fiber too. They're usually 15 to 20 grams of fiber. So grabbing something like that. And then we go to the traditional gym bro advice for like maybe my third point is try to have leaner sources of protein. If you are, and this really, won't impact the majority of people. But if you're never eating Greek yogurt, start. If you're never eating, and especially if you like it,
I love it. Yeah,
and
I
if
eat a
you're
lot of it.
never eating it and you just can't do plain, don't. Why would you? Get the flavored one that you like.
Right.
Do the step that is going to make you adhere to the diet, because the best diet for you is the one that you stick to. It's
Yeah.
an absolute dog shit diet if you won't stick to it for longer than your 6-week course or your 5-week fat loss phase, whatever you're doing.
Yep. Yep.
So lean sources of protein like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, your lean cuts of meat. I'm not going to get into details on those. Your tofu, your tempeh, your seitan,
tempeh.
your seitan, which is another one that people underestimate. Your various beans. Like, don't get into the debate of, oh, but is that higher in carbs or protein, whatever. You're already looking at it too complex.
But what about the anti-nutrients, the phytic acid or whatever it was? I
Show
remember
me
that
someone. I want someone listening to this right now to message me about how they ended up in the hospital thanks to their anti-nutrients.
Yeah.
When that happens, I will stop saying what I'm saying.
I don't think we have anything to worry about in that department.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be okay.
I think, yeah.
Exactly. And so, by doing that, I think, even, that was such a simple thing, the 50 plants. Just by doing that, you're actually going to eat a lot more protein as well. Plants do have protein. Your cauliflower, your broccoli. Are they high sources of protein? No. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what is my goal here? Most Americans do get their daily protein intake in, at least the RDA, which we can argue at length whether or not that's adequate. I would argue that it's not. But at minimum, everyone is getting 0.8 grams per kilogram of their body weight in protein per day. The problem is they're consuming on average around 3,500 to 4,000 calories per day to do so. That's the problem.
That's definitely part of it. Yep.
So, not that you guys are probably in that boat.
Oh, we're definitely in that boat.
You guys are
I'm
pretty,
definitely no.
You guys are pretty lean guys. So
don't look. Listen, you surprised me here with the fiber being one of the first things you mentioned. You said before, okay, I can't fast for 36 hours. I probably can't stop online gambling. So what's the next simplest thing to do? That's a joke, Mom.
Yeah.
Add 50 vegetables, right? It's an easy, simple way to look at it.
50
but the
plants.
second thing,
super simple. Sorry,
okay,
if I said 50
easier.
vegetables, 50 plants.
No, you said it
if
better.
If it grows in the ground, it counts towards your 50. And set a checklist.
So the next thing you went to is fiber. I don't think I've ever even seen or heard fiber mentioned as a macro besides fat, carb, and protein. So why is nobody else talking about fiber? What the hell?
I mean, there are some folks in the space who do a great job of that. Shout out dietitian Gabrielle. Shout out, Dr. Ids does a little bit of a good job of that, but he's also in all sorts of hot water all the time with people. But and Dr. Matthew Nagra, he's on the vegan side of things. So unless you follow vegan content, you probably wouldn't have heard of him. I mean, great guy, by the way. Not trying to throw shade there. That was absolutely not my goal there. But yeah, fiber, it's not a macro technically, but it falls under carbohydrates. In most cases, the reason why fiber is sick is because it doesn't have any calories, if not has half of the calories of typical carbohydrates.
So it's about satiety, being satiated.
It is about satiety. Well, I mean, I want to be full. You want to be full.
Gotcha.
We all live. That is the reason we eat, is to be full. And I'm all about keeping it simple and not overcomplicating it, because the last thing I want to do is, I've done it for years where I make social media content and it just sounds like I'm motivational masturbating. I'm just like pushing all the words out of my mouth. And at the end of the day, what am I doing? Just trying to sound smart. And that accomplishes nothing. Nor do I sound smart, nor does the person understand what I'm talking about. And therefore, my goal is not being met. So that's why I really like to keep things as simple as I can and speak in the language that people understand. Which is, again, why we bring it back to, if we eat 50 plants, will that be the diet that changes? I mean, that is no diet. There's no dietary ideology there. I'm not asking you to be vegan. I'm not asking you to be... The only dietary ideology that this wouldn't fit is a carnivore diet. Unless you're going to go the Saladino route and start calling spaghetti squash animal-based again, in which case, fantastic, do that. Do all the animal-based stuff.
Did Paul Saladino start calling spaghetti squash animal-based? Or is
Look it up, dude. You're gonna have a field day on that one.
that's ridiculous. But I like
I do
that.
have a
Okay.
video on that. That's way back. That's one of my, I think, like 1 to 2 million view video for sure, if not way more than that now. But that's just on IG. I think that one did well on other platforms too. But I digress.
So-
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's
Well,
just
Please.
One of the things I
fact-check
like
me.
about Paul
Love it.
Saladino is he gives, listen, I've never followed his diet, but he puts out reels that would say, hey, if you have $11, here's how you can eat all day, right? And he shows you an $8
Yeah.
pack of ground beef, a
Yeah.
couple spoonfuls of honey, and a pack of blueberries or whatever. And like, okay, I get it. But so in this world, when I have to leave a grocery store with like 6 vegetables, they're all wrapped in plastic, and it costs me $299. And so I feel like I'm going to have to start growing my own food to keep up with this. At what point is it the fault of the grocery store? Is it the fault of the government for not stepping in and saying, we're giving you, they just stopped in this country. They just stopped the SNAP programs, which is the food stamps for sodas. You can't get the soda anymore. And they're cutting back on the food stamps a lot. I mean, that sounds like a step in the right direction. Is it an infringement on a freedom? No, I don't think so. It's a privilege, not a right. But the grocery store is at fault. The corporations are at fault. The government's at fault for not banning this stuff. Aren't I right?
I don't know. I think it depends on how you want to view things. I think it's a matter of education. I'll go in that direction with this, because I truly believe that we're kind of hyperfixating on the wrong thing again. And to your point, like, yeah, it does feel like it's over. You felt overwhelmed when I said 50 fruits and vegetables in a week. I think you're also overestimating how much that is. Like, if you see my dinner yesterday had, I think, 6 vegetables, just my dinner alone.
Yeah,
So,
fair. If you have
just-
quinoa
and
and
it
looked really
beans and
tasty.
sprouts, and, yeah.
Sure, exactly. And then today I actually have a lunch prepared that's the same cabbage from earlier, and that one head of cabbage, I chop it up at once and split it up into so that I can cook it easier. That's how I prep my food. So I'll buy it in its rawest form where possible when in season. But again, I'm gonna really briefly pause on that. I buy things when they're in season, but I know what to do with them now. With those things that I buy that are in season, I know when they're in season because I took the time to learn that. I also have a fundamental advantage with the fact that I'm formally educated. I took 4 years of just my undergrad to learn about food and nutrition, of which in dietetics, you learn about, there's many courses along the way that you're learning about other people, how they live.
Mhm.
Where I remember we had a project, I think it was for anyone listening that's from my school, if anyone still is, FNP, I believe it was FNP like 200 or 250. And we had a full two classes talking about, hey, here's a flyer to your grocery store. And it was randomized. You got a different grocery store. Maybe it was Costco. Maybe it was whatever. You guys have Aldi's, you have Whole Foods and all of that. So, and then here's your budget. You also have a randomized budget. So one person was like, your budget is $200 for the week. One person is, and this was over 10 years ago. That money went a long way, okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you got 3 days.
So, and then it went down to someone has $20 for a week. I remember that was me. I had $20 for a week, and my grocery store was not a cheap grocery store. So I learned very quickly what ways you got to go and that there are sacrifices that you have to make. Can you have convenience at that budget? No, sir, you cannot, unfortunately. The reality is, you ask me, is it the fault of the grocery store? Yeah, to an extent. There's obviously a role played in that. They're a business too. They have to survive, but they don't need to have record profits while people can't eat. I don't think that's the way to do it. And the way they get to those record profits is by allowing advertisement that hints at this convenience. So if we want to talk about the sodas, how many people are buying soda when they actually probably can't afford it? Even with the SNAP benefits, how many people probably shouldn't be using their SNAP benefits to that? I think that's what a lot of Americans want to have an argument about. Like, hey, the reason why you can't afford to eat is because you are spending your money on stupid shit. Sure, that might be the case for a lot of people, but it's not for everyone. There's some people that genuinely still cannot afford to eat and they're doing all the right things. Their budget is just lower. And
Yeah.
I do also fundamentally agree with the fact that, I am so grateful that I have privilege, both the skin color I have all sorts of different privilege that I grew up with in this world. I don't have an accent, not unless I'm getting fired up about something, even though I'm, nah.
Kind of. I'm starting to hear it, actually.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But English is my second language, so I speak multiple languages as well, which is it's an advantage for me. So I can hit many audiences, but I also am not in the lower tax bracket or lowest tax bracket.
Yeah.
No, I work like a dog. Don't get it twisted. I work like an absolute dog. I'm working 8 days a week. You know what I mean?
Yep,
That's
yep,
kind of the running
I thought
joke
you were going to
here.
say 8 hours. I'm like, okay, 8 hours. That's pretty good at it.
Working like a dog.
Congrats, buddy. Like, dude, sick. Yeah. Do you want your cookie or an award?
That's right.
So
My grandparents would always say, you can never skimp on food. If you're going to look and try to tighten your nuts and bolts on your budget, it's not on the food. And I just personally have always struggled with that ideology. My wife does the food shopping now, thank God, and she's pretty healthy as a vegetarian herself, but buys me meat that I asked for. But it's crazy. I can't imagine being like you're saying, like a low income or a single parent having to support a family. You just can't. In fact, it makes me think of those TikToks. You probably laugh about some of them where it's a single mom feeding her 4-year-old and her 3-year-old, and listen, she's probably overweight and she's making chicken nuggets and throws a
that's why she's
pastry on
viral
the plate.
because
But you
that's
know
why
what?
she's viral.
When you have a kid and you have a 2-year-old and they won't eat anything but crackers for 3 straight days, you're going to be like, you know what? If he eats a freaking chicken nugget, it's like a godsend today.
Yeah. I'm thankful.
It's very tough.
I've definitely worked with families and through the dietetic internships, I've definitely seen a lot of that, or bedridden folks, and you still got to find a way to get them to eat fiber, or people with learning disabilities that will have for lack of a better word, they have the brain capacity of someone that's like 4 years old, maybe 5 years old, and they're 60 plus. That was the most humbling experience of my life, going through a dietetic internship, is finding ways to make them eat healthier. And that's when you realize perfect is not in the cards for a lot of people. But better is in the cards for everyone. And for those folks, it's maybe you can't afford to buy everything fresh. But look at myself. I just admitted that I'm not in the lowest tax bracket. I never buy fresh berries. Never.
What do you buy? Frozen berries?
You never get to them before they rot.
I buy canned fruit. Exactly. I never get to them. But it's just me and my partner here, Jesse. Just me and my partner. Sometimes we forget they're there, and
it only takes 2 or 3 days, and that's it. Yeah.
And exactly, especially coming up to Canada, they're coming from you guys, or they're coming from Mexico even further. So we import them, right? Unless they're, in season. We got blackberries here and blueberries in Canada, but that's my point, is sometimes having that conversation or having that thought process is like, and that's where I'm coming back to my original point, where I think education could be done better and that's what I try to do with showing people canned food options, showing people frozen food options, where perhaps, and those industries have moved forward a lot. Before, back in the day, it was always, but it's so high sodium for canned food, for example, or the packaging's not good, or blah, 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 all of these different things. But now the production is to a point where a lot of cases, the quality is, first of all, peak freshness on whatever piece of produce you have in a can or frozen, and they're packaged within like an hour to 2 hours of picking. So whether it's frozen or canned, and seeing that in person myself, again, like I said, I'm blessed to be able to work in agricultural industry a little bit. And I've seen some of these, like last year, I went on a tour, last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, I went on a tour of a farm in California. And it's a farm where all they do is take tomatoes and put them in cans. That's cool. It. It's not like, some people, a misconception I heard recently is these are just like the bottom of the barrel tomatoes and they just kind of throw them in there because they don't have to look a certain way. Fuck no. They actually care so much about what they look like. And these fields are just for canning. In fact, crazy. They choose different varietals of tomatoes based on how they might potentially taste in a can. So
very
it maybe
interesting.
looking at the acidity level of the tomato, looking at how sweet they are, how can they counterbalance that, and then before they put them in a can, and then pretty much within an hour from the tomato one specifically is within an hour they are picked and then in a can.
That's crazy,
which requires a lot of steps. You have to get it to the facility, and we've watched these trucks bring them in and then go through the whole process and seal them shut. And within an hour, with all health and safety guidelines being followed, it goes from the ground into washed, cleaned, cut into a can. And it is incredible. And then in the case of tomatoes, in most cases, the nutrient profile is higher than the ones that you might get that are, depending on where you live, of course, and the time of year. But in most cases, it's actually a higher nutrient quality. Because you have to remember an important context here is with fruits and veg, or any form of plant, really, the moment you pick it or harvest it, in most cases, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that doesn't follow this, it's peak ripeness, right? This is the best it's going to get. From peak ripeness, the nutrient quality with each day drops significantly.
Sure.
For example, those berries we were talking about. Yeah, they just start to drop in their nutrient profile, and then eventually they go bad. And with some things, it takes a couple of days, and with some fruits and veg, it can last a little bit longer.
Very interesting.
That's why education's important, because a lot of people don't know that.
I would have avoided canned fruits and vegetables thinking it's unhealthy. Literally, the word unhealthy comes to mind when I think of a canned vegetable. So,
and you're not alone. Yeah. And you're not alone. I promise you, I talk to people on a daily basis that think the same.
So you kind of read my mind a little bit, but so what are some bang for your buck, and we'll just not even say fruits and vegetables, just plants. What are some things that are bang for a buck that are versatile, good value for, volume you get per dollar? What are some things you can find in your supermarket that are also, packed with nutrition?
So nowadays, I already mentioned cabbage, and I also want to be very clear here that I'm going to name some things that are probably easier to prepare.
Right, including preparation too, yeah.
Yeah, because if I said pineapple or watermelon is one of them, but people get overwhelmed by cutting one. And then they think about, the pre-cut ones in the plastic. No, that's not what I'm talking about. There's actually a whole melon you can get. And those, pound for pound, those are insane volume for calories, for example. Sure. But they're not very high in fiber, but they're satiating and filled with water. Some other ones. I think right now, spaghetti squash is a good one. Very simple. You just cut it in half, pull out the seeds, and then pop some olive oil, salt, pepper in the oven. Boom. And then you've got, for probably 25 minutes of baking, you've got enough to feed if you got a solid size spaghetti squash. They're relatively cheap right now. All of those things you think about Thanksgiving diets, whether it's the sweet potatoes, whether it's the spaghetti squash or the butternut squash, all of the squashes, all of that's in season right now in the fall. So getting that would be fantastic because it'll be cheaper too.
Yeah.
Because supply and demand. So the spaghetti squash, very good, high amount of volume for calories, fibrous as well, relatively speaking. I would say, again, frozen mixed berries, frozen strawberries, that's kind of the go-to for me to add to oats. I'm having that hot anyways, so pour some hot liquid on it, throw it in the microwave, they'll catch up in temperature, you know what I mean? And that's a good way and it requires zero effort. That one is zero effort. You just pour it out.
I just have to say, it's so funny because everything that you're saying where I'm like, oh yeah, but how could I enjoy a handful of frozen blueberries? That's what I'm thinking in my head. And then you say the simplest shit, you put it in oatmeal. Obviously it's not frozen anymore. I'm like, oh, duh, that sounds fantastic. It really is so simple, but it's about creating these routines or these habits, or, you put an episode or a reel up recently that was, a couple slabs of cucumber and a microwaved sweet potato. You can't really get more healthy than that. And it takes about 3 minutes to make. And I was like,
and a
oh my
Costco
God,
rotisserie chicken. Yeah,
exactly. I've never even thought about putting a freaking sweet potato in the microwave. We literally have regular potatoes that we cook in the microwave. I've never even thought about putting a sweet potato in. So it's those tiny little alterations
when they're in
really
season, especially now. Sorry to interrupt you, but when they're in season now, right? So they're cheaper.
You're exactly right. I know. You guys don't celebrate Thanksgiving up there, do you?
So we do. It's just like a month earlier.
Right.
And
it's a different holiday, though.
I found out fun fact for anyone that's listening. I found, and for you guys as well, I found out that the reason, I was always wondering as a kid growing up why it was a different time. And it's strictly based on our harvest being earlier.
Yep.
So our harvest comes earlier, and that's why we celebrated it earlier.
Isn't it
It's
about
otherwise the same
colonizers coming and
Same
shaking
shit.
hands with Native Americans? I guess you guys have Native Americans too.
It's kind of, we
First
definitely- we're
peoples.
built. Yeah. Let's not get into that, but let's just say that our countries are based on similar platforms. Our countries are very much based on immigration.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah,
put it that
there's-
way, I think.
I know that you guys, well, what is your take, just to end things off, a little bit off topic, but I know Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry have kind of been hitting it off. Is there any kind of relevancy to your life in that?
Yeah, I don't think that impacts my life in any capacity. Candidly speaking, good for him though. I mean, what a fire way to what a comeback. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He's
No,
dating an
like-
astronaut now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
A
Technically,
very
you're right.
famous
Yeah.
astronaut. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I'm like, what? I got
Yeah.
you, Blue Origin. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Good for him, I guess. Do your thing, homie. There's lots of things you do that I agree with and disagree with, and he's a human just like anyone else. So I hope I hope he's happy. That's all that matters.
So-
you go, Mike.
I was gonna say, so what did we miss? We talked about a lot today, but what is something we might have missed that you want to make sure the viewers know about?
Ultimately, I think the goal is to get better, and to stop finding ways of identifying where you're bad. Identify things that you can improve upon, and that'll change your life a lot better. So I know it seems in my content like I'm critical, and that's because I am. I'm critical of a lot of ideas. That's true. But I hope that you can take from that I'm looking at it from a lens of what can you improve upon. My dad growing up used to always say, you're never going to improve if I keep telling you, oh, nice, beautiful. He used to always say that, oh, nice, beautiful. And so what's funny is that used to piss me off so much as a kid, but now I realize it's like a part of my life now. I literally use that all the time. Like we can all improve on something, even the most, in my case with performance nutrition, or in the, the opposite side of the spectrum with general population, we're looking at similar things. We're just looking at, okay, where are you now? What can we improve? The important thing though to realize with that is, where are you now and where do you want to be? And what can you afford? The reality is, I don't care who you are. I don't care. And I've had some higher level elite clientele. Everyone has a budget. Everyone. Doesn't
and if it's
matter.
not a monetary budget, it's a time and energy budget, right?
I'd argue that no matter what, they have a budget, monetary, but you're right. In some cases, when we're talking food, monetary might not be something that they need to worry about, but everyone has a budget. Every single person has a budget. And for sure, for some people, it's their time. That's more of a constraint. But it's about like realizing which one of those is your biggest constraint. Because if money is your biggest constraint, then we got to find a way to, as I said earlier in the pod, we were talking about how you can't buy convenience if you can't afford it. So you might have to spend some more time, for example, with beans. Take canned beans, for example. Canned beans cost like, what, $1, $2 for you guys? How much do they cost?
Roughly
a
$1,
dollar,
$2. You're right.
Let's call it $1, okay, for easy math. You can make 10 times that with
Right.
the same dollar if you soak them yourself.
Yep.
Will
who-
I do that? I'll
who
pay for
wants
the
to do that?
convenience.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll pay for the convenience. But if you don't have a choice, there's still an option for you to improve by getting more fiber, more protein, etc. But you just have to think about it more strategically. Utilizing your resources in a little bit more strategic manner. And that's kind of just how it is for some people. And that's okay. Like for me, for example, one thing that you guys said that I wanted to touch upon is you guys said the 36-hour fast, and people my whole life have been telling me, oh, if you just try this, it cures diabetes. If you just try this, it cures diabetes. When I tell you I've had, no lie, over 100 of those examples, well over 99% of the time, maybe like 1% of the time. I think 100% of the time people do it in good faith and they mean well. Maybe a little less than 99, but I think everyone means well when they say it. But, can I go and do a 36-hour fast? I can't even do a 24-hour fast. that's not possible for me. I'll have a low blood sugar, and then I'll sit there thinking, do I save my own life and consume something and break my fast? Or do I continue to try doing this fast because that's going to cure my diabetes eventually at some point? I don't know what's going to happen. Something's going to click and I'm going to all of a sudden not have diabetes anymore.
Yeah.
Yay, fasting. So I don't have the privilege of false hope in that regard. I haven't had that privilege of false hope. Whereas the layman who doesn't go to his doctor, doesn't have any health scares, doesn't have any whatever, they're just ignorant. They have no idea.
Yeah.
But they're blissfully ignorant. Sorry?
Fat and happy sometimes. Or fat and sick and nearly dead.
Until one day they're not.
Yeah. Exactly.
Until one day they're not. And
so with the type 1, Edin, I mean, have you tried like 3 minutes in a cold plunge? That might...
Have you tried drinking more water?
Raw milk,
it actually
maybe?
completely... Raw milk actually is the one that we're working on right now. I think it's going to work, dude.
Yeah, we're doing that too here in this house.
Yeah. The raw milk or the cold plunge?
All three.
It's actually the milk plunge and the cold milk. That's the difference.
Yeah. Sorry, that's very important.
Edin, where can people find you? Please share your handles.
So you guys can find me at Evidence Nutrition, whether you're looking for coaching, which I just reopened my coaching today. The link's going to be open. People can sign up for that. I've had it closed for a little while. So we revamped it, launched a new app, launched a whole bunch of different stuff, just trying to give people as much value as possible. So you can find all of that at Evidence Nutrition on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Red Note, LinkedIn, everything.
Don't go to
I don't
Red
post
Note.
much on LinkedIn, but everything, anywhere.
Everywhere.
And if I'm not there, tell me, I'll be there.
You're
I'll
not
find
actually
a way,
on
dude.
Xiaolong whatever, are you?
Yeah, Xiaohongshu? Yeah, I am.
You are? Wow. Holy crap. Okay,
Dude,
good.
I love it. I love Xiaohongshu.
The links are below, everyone. I'm really grateful, Edin. This was really illuminating, honestly, and people will glean a lot of value from your content. So we are grateful. This is an awesome addition to our repertoire of interviews. Thank you very, very much. And thank
you for having me, guys.
This has been Elevated Thoughts.